Hey guys, I am going to try to go over using the area model to divide. I understand some of you were confused by the YouTube video, and for that I apologize. I'm going to try doing this without using the base 10 models, just flat out showing you the area model. So the problem we worked on yesterday, and if you're in A group the day before, this week we worked on 78 divided by 3 with an area model. And I want you to remember that area shows the number of square units inside a rectangle. And in this case with division, we already know how many units are in the rectangle. It's 78. So we're going to decompose that into 70 plus 8, which means we need 2 columns. 3 is our divisor. The divisor always goes on the outside, and it tells us how many pieces we're breaking our 78 into, or how many pieces are in each group when we break apart the 78. One of the best things to do is to take your divisor and just come over and quickly write the first couple multiples. That will help you with division. The other thing to do is remember that order, the division, multiplication, subtraction, and then the bring down or up. And daddy, mommy, sister, brother, does McDonald's serve burgers, however it helps you to remember. So we're going to start out thinking about how many times 3 goes into 70. Most of us don't know our 3's all the way up to 70. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to cover up the 0, and we're just going to look at the 7. And we're saying, well, 3 goes into 7. I can get 1 there, 1 there. If I take 3 copies, it goes over 7. So I can take 2 sets of 3, and since this is in 7 tens, we're going to make this 2 tens. So 3 goes into 70 20 times. Those partial quotients always go on the outside of the box. Remember that. This is the opposite of multiplication. So I just did division. Now I need to multiply. And I take that partial quotient and I multiply it by the divisor. 20 times 3, I could count by 20s, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Or I could say 3 times 2 tens is 6 tens. So I had 70 in this box. I just took 60 out, so I need to subtract. 70 minus 60 is 10. Now remember the rule, you cannot keep anything in this column. So I have to take that 10 and bring it over to the next column. There was already 8 there. I just added 10 more, so now I have 18. And because I still have something in this column, I come back to the top and I start over. So how many times does 3 go into 18? Well, hopefully you know that, but if you don't, you've got your multiples over here, and you can see that 3 goes into 18 6 times. Remember, those quotients always go on the outside. I just divided. Now I need to multiply. 6 times 3 is 18. I subtract. I get 0, and 0 is what I have to have. I need to make sure all of the columns are empty. So there's nothing left, nothing to bring up as a remainder. That means my 2 partial quotients are 20 and 6, and the quotient then is 26. 78 divided by 3 is 26. 26 times 3 is 78, and 3 goes into 78 26 times. I would like to look at another one. I always do this one wrong because it's different on my home computer. So let's get rid of those. And let's try another one here. Sorry. Well, I'm just going to ignore that. Sorry, guys. Let's try 80. Let's do 88 divided by 6. Okay? So again, when we hear area model, the first thing we do is we think rectangle, because our familiarity with area is usually in a rectangle. We find rectangle length times width, so we're doing the inverse of that. We know that one of those measures here is 6. We need to find this measure up here. And what we also know is the measure of the rectangle already. It's 88. So I'm going to break my 88 into 80 plus 8. I'm going to remind myself over here of the steps. And I'm going to think about the first couple multiples of 6. So 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm saying how many times does 6 go into 80? I'm not sure, but I know that 6 goes into 8 once. And it's a safe bet all of these times. I know that I can do 6 times 10. I know 6 goes in there at least 10 times. So then I need to multiply. 10 times 6 is 60. And then I subtract. I had 80 in this column. I want to take 60 away. So I have 20 left. Not allowed to have anything left. I need to knock the columns all down to 0. So I'm going to take this 20. I'm going to bring it over. I have 8 in here already. I'm going to add the 20, which means I now have 28. And it means I start back at the top. So I'm going to come up and divide. How many times does 6 go into 28? Well, when I look at my chart here, I can take 4 copies of 6, but if I try 5, it's going to go over. So I'm going to take 4 groups of 6 out. 4 times 6 is 24. And when I subtract, I have 4. Now, I'm not allowed to have anything here. Remember, it needs to be 0. So before I assume that this is a remainder, let's make sure that I took enough copies out. So I look back at my divisor. Can I take any more groups of 6 out of 4? And in this case, I can't unless I turn it into a fraction. In 4th grade, we're only using whole numbers. So at this point, I still have to bring that 4 somewhere, but there's not another column. So instead, I bring it up, and it turns into a remainder. I add my partial quotients. I have 14, and I have those 4 left over. So 88 divided by 6 is 14, remainder 4. That means if I multiply 14 times 4 and then add my remainder on, I'm going to get 88. We're going to try one more here if my recording lets me hold out that long. And let's come up this time and do, let's try a 3-digit one. Let's try 137 divided by 5. So I always start with my rectangle. Remember, with division, we're doing everything opposite of multiplication. So when I decompose the 137, it goes inside the box. 137, that's 3 columns. And my divisor always stays on the outside. I'm looking to see how many times 5 goes into 137. How many groups of 5 I can get out of there. I don't need to probably write these. We know the multiples of 5 pretty nicely. But I am going to remind myself of division, multiply, subtract, and bring down or over. So I'm starting out saying how many times does 5 go into 100. I happen to know that that is 20 because I know that there's 20 nickels in a dollar. But if you didn't know that, you could say how many times does 5 go into 10, 2, and since it's hundreds, we need that extra 0 up there. So I know 20 times 5 is 100. And when I subtract, I have 0, which is good. I don't have to bring anything over to the next column. So I come back to the top and I say how many times does 5 go into 30? And I know that that's 6. Would be the next one right here. So I put my quotients on the outside. I multiply. 6 times 5 is 30, and voila, I have another column with a 0. That's nice. So now I have this column left. I come back up to divide. How many times does 5 go into 7? Goes in there 1 time. 1 times 5 is 5. I subtract. 7 minus 5 is 2. Up. Now I don't have a 0. I don't assume it's a remainder yet. I said, can I get another group of 5 out of that 2? And I can't. If I only have 2, I can't circle 5. So that means the 2 comes up. It is a remainder with a capital R. I add my partial quotients, and I have 20 plus 6 plus 1 is 27 with a remainder of 2. And again, That means that I can get 5 groups of 27 in 137, but I would have 2 left over. You can check that with 27 times 5 plus 2. Watch this, rewatch it, rewind it, copy in your notebook, and continue to let me know if you have questions. Watching the tutorial in iReady is also going to help you. So do what you can do. Just remember, in 4th grade, unfortunately, we are not using the algorithm, so we need to make the best of our area model right now. Thank you.